If you want to go fast, learning how to drive slow cars is critical. Not only will this massively improve your driving ability, but it's also extremely fun and rewarding. And once you get good enough at it, you'll be embarrassing drivers in cars far more powerful than yours. Just like this. The thing about these beefy and powerful cars is that they're heavy and cumbersome. This means they don't turn so well, and it's typically faster for them to sacrifice mid-corner speed to increase their turning ability. Then, once these big lumps are finally pointed out of the corner, they use their massive acceleration power to make up for all that lost time on the corner entry. This is known as point and shoot driving, or slow in fast out. But in cars that don't have the power to accelerate out of a corner like a bullet, we need a totally different style of driving if we want any chance at keeping up. And I don't mean to blow my own trumpet, but the other day I put on an absolute masterclass on probably one of the best touges for it. Introducing Tsubaki Line. This is easily one of the top 3 touges in existence. It has it all, from slow technical sections, massive hairpins, and fast undulating, not so straights that really test a driver's nerves. It is the perfect playground for slower cars that want to embarrass faster ones. So let's see exactly what I did to beat the likes of a tuned 86, RX-7, GTR, Supra and 370Z in a mere MX-5. What I was doing is something called momentum driving, and it is absolutely key for bullying drivers in much faster cars. This section of road right here is an absolute piece of art, and it's brilliant for explaining the momentum driving technique. So let's use it as an example. Most drivers have the slow in fast out mantra ingrained far too deep into them, and it is putting them at a massive disadvantage. These drivers focus on braking as late as possible and punching out of the corner with a straight shot, ultimately looking something like this. But if you want to have any chance at keeping up with these faster cars in a
Miata,
especially on this stretch of road, we want to focus on medium fast in and out. This is how I was not only managing to keep ahead of one race car, but also catch another one that was quite far ahead. I did this by not thinking of the brakes as a tool to slow down, but one that would give me more grip and help the car turn in. When I hit the brakes, the weight of the car shifted to the front tyres, smushing them into the tarmac, meaning I could corner a lot harder. And with the reduced weight on the rear, those tyres had less grip, meaning they rotated more. Pair this with trailing the brakes or gradually releasing them as you turn through the corner, you'll keep the weight exactly where you want it until you hit the acceleration point and no longer need it. This concept is imperative to keeping your subconscious when driving at all, but especially whilst momentum driving. So instead of doing the tired, boring and old slow in fast out, I modified my braking points to look something like this. I was braking a lot earlier, sure, but with this I had less change in speed and kept my momentum up. And with the weight over the front tyres, I could corner faster than I'd be able to if I braked far later. I was able to float through the entire section without slowing down much at all, and it felt phenomenal. This is an incredibly important skill to learn if your car's a little light in the power department, front wheel drive or just shit in general. And it's a great method of beating much faster cars that have the power to actually do slow in fast out. Now don't get me wrong, I'm under no illusion that the drivers in the other cars are world class. And while they're certainly better than the majority of public lobby touge drivers, as they're actually able to keep the car on the road, I probably would have been smoked by a pro sim racist in this instance, but you know what, that's okay. But just because I was keeping pace with them in an MX-5, that doesn't mean they're bad either. Just take a look at this R34 GTR that I caught up to. It's hard to tell whether he's simply suffering from an issue of skill, or whether he just doesn't know the road. He runs wide on this big hairpin, which could be either or, but farther on, he corrects the oversteer pretty well, so he does seem to be in control of the car, and they clearly have a grasp on the concept of racing lines too. We also went side by side without either of us dying, so there's that also. This is a testament to the importance of track knowledge. I vaguely know where I'm going at this point, but they quite clearly don't, which leads to the far inferior car making an overtake. This is also a critical aspect of momentum driving a car like this. The MX-5 doesn't have carbon ceramic brakes or slick tyres, So if you make a mistake and carry too much speed through a tight corner, it is going to end badly. And track knowledge is never more important when you're attempting the third pillar of momentum driving, balancing the car. A car is most balanced when it's parked up, not accelerating, cornering or braking. There's equal load on all 4 tyres. Now obviously when you actually drive, it's impossible for the car to be totally balanced. Even if you accelerate in a straight line, the car will always have less grip than when it's stationary. But there is a way we can achieve the most balance and grip out of the car even when we're driving like madmen, and that is by being smooth with the controls. If we accelerate too hard out of a turn, corner too aggressively, or just stomp on the brakes, far too much weight is going to be shifted around, resulting in less grip overall. Good balance is critical to maintain high speeds through turns when you momentum drive. Your footwork is probably the most important. If you take a look at my pedal inputs, I literally never slam on the brakes going into a turn. It's always a graceful, smooth application, which is critical to the mid-corner speed we so desire in momentum driving. If I kick the brake, the balance of the car will be all wonky going through the corner, and we just won't be able to carry enough speed without oversteering, which is slow. It's the same with the throttle too. If I accelerate as hard as possible on the exit of a turn, all the weight will be shifted off our turning wheels, and it will cause understeer, meaning I'll have to then lift off the throttle again just to regain steering. It's the same with the wheel too. If I aggressively turn into every corner, the front tyres will quickly be overloaded and we'll lose steering potential. You'll also notice that most of the time I also overlap the 2 pedals just to get that bit extra balance.
You have to be careful with this because it does increase your braking distances slightly, and if you do it too much your brakes will just overheat. But by using both at the same time, the transition of weight from rear to front is so much smoother, meaning you have more grip, and once you learn it, you will never stop.
I do have to add though, smooth inputs doesn't mean slow inputs. If we put an aggressive throttle input onto a graph, it would look something like this. You can see there's no progression in its build-up, and this is what a smooth input looks like, with a progressive build-up and then release. As long as your application looks like the second one, you can practically do it as fast as you like. But of course, there are exceptions to all of these rules. Maybe you want to aggressively steer from left to right to shift all that weight to the outside tyres and give them as much grip as possible. Maybe you want to step on the brakes more aggressively to get more rotation, or slam on the accelerator to oversteer around a sharp corner. All of these are okay if they're actually faster. However, it should still be done smoothly. Every single action you take in a car will affect its balance, and if you want to be fast, you've also got to be smooth, especially in a car like the MX-5 Miata.